Counselor Simpson?
I see you.
We see you. Didn't
We
hear
maybe
you, though.
have you on mute. Can you hear us, Counselor Simpson?
Let me text them. I'll text them.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Continuing on, Counselor Rosenthal.
Present.
Counselor Nolan is here as well. He's present, thank you. President Peterson and Counselor Wong are both excused today, and Deputy Council President Lewis.
Present. Thank you. Before we begin, can we please play safety video?
I'm Mike Reese, and I'm the dive safety officer here at the Oregon Zoo, and safety is a big part of my job. Some of the things we consider here is diver safety. I'm out here at the Oregon Zoo, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chamber is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside the entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Our first agenda item for today is our opportunity to talk about the Oregon Zoo campus plan. We've had a number of meetings over the past 8 months, and I'm excited to have Heidi Ron, our Oregon Zoo Director, Andy Shaw, our Government Affairs and Policy Development Director, and Brian Kennedy, our Chief Financial Officer, here today. This is our opportunity to provide feedback and direction on a draft capital project prioritization and financing approach. And I will say it was perfect timing to schedule today right after many of us were at Zoo Lights last night, enjoying community with our Metro employees and with members and with folks who wanted to go in particular because of the sensory positive experience. So thank you for providing that and for providing everything that you do every day for our animals and for our community.
Right. Thank you, Deputy Council President Lewis and fellow councilors. I'm Heidi Ron, the Zoo Director. And today, Andy Shaw and Brian Kennedy and I will be talking to you and following up from our October 26th conversation, where you passed a resolution accepting the key concepts of the new Oregon Zoo campus plan. You directed us to proceed with project prioritization and a financing plan. So we are here today to get your feedback on that and take you through a brief presentation, including a little bit about how we're funded, why community support is so important, how our teams have considered prioritizing the next phase of projects, and what that might mean in terms of financing through a possible bond renewal. Ultimately, we're hoping for any feedback you might have as staff work to further refine an investment framework and the green light to prepare a potential funding renewal measure for your consideration in January. Next slide. Creating that magical connection to animals is truly what we're about. Our main purpose is to inspire our community to support wildlife. Globally, we are losing nature at an alarming rate. Monitored populations of vertebrates have seen a devastating 69% drop on average in the last 50 years. Our future depends on reversing the loss of nature just as much as it depends on addressing climate change. Zoos and aquariums provide that connection for our community to take action. More than 700 million people visit zoos and aquariums annually across the globe, and that gives us a huge opportunity to educate and connect. Next slide. The good news, as you've no doubt seen or experienced, is that we're sharing this wonder of wildlife almost daily with the adults and children who visit and learn at the zoo every day, as well as the broader community. Here's a smattering of stories just from the past few weeks of how we celebrate the zoo's unique and fun animals, looking at the future of threatened and endangered species, and the care and love that our staff give to the animals. And as Councillor Lewis mentioned, the first 4 nights of Zoo Lights have been a huge success, with zoo members, staff, and Brew Lights attendees enjoying the festivity of the season and community treasure we have in our zoo. You guys know I like to share quotes with you. I'm going to share one I received this morning. I went to Zoo Lights last night with a family who has a neurodivergent child. They loved the sensory night and thought that the zoo did a great job. Their son was able to enjoy every part of it, and their family had a really nice outing. Thank you for all the effort. It's an exciting time at the zoo. There's so much more to come. We need to be setting up our zoo for the future. Over the past year, we've engaged you, our community, staff, and guests to identify priorities for future investment. We've monitored changing standards from our accrediting body, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and a research study that's looking at the next 10 years of trends that will influence our operations. We've taken stock of what we've done well with the most recent investments and what we've learned. And while I've been the zoo director for just over 2 years, I've been with the zoo for more than a decade, overseeing the last round of campus investments. So we are building off of that collective local and industry knowledge and planning our future. Next slide. So a reminder of the action that you took on October 26. You unanimously passed resolution number 255357, and through that you endorsed the key concepts of the updated zoo campus plan, continuing to carry the zoo forward with the highest standards of animal well-being, continuing to serve our whole community as welcoming and accessible place for education and unforgettable experiences, and advancing our goals to save energy and water. We are carrying those forward now in the conditional use permit with the city, as well as engagement with nearby neighbors and stakeholders. And council also directed staff to develop financing and business planning options to move the campus plan's highest priorities forward. So we're here today to present a potential prioritization and financing approach for council's feedback. And then we will put the framework together and come back to you in January. Next steps. Recent updates is that while Metro owns the land that the zoo sits on, we exist within the boundaries of Washington Park. So given that land use zoning we are in, we need to get the city's approval to develop on our property. This means submitting a conditional use master plan for review and approval by the city. Once that's approved, we can proceed with design and construction. We currently have large signs up around the zoo notifying the community of this process and the opportunity to engage. We've had productive meetings with the neighborhood associations and other key stakeholders, and we will be submitting our materials to the city for review in November. We will come back to you on the permitting process in the spring, and in the meantime, we continue to build awareness, get feedback on the plan. The Zoo Foundation is launching a speakers bureau to reach out to civic clubs, neighborhoods, and business groups, and we're doing a one-on-one outreach to build awareness about the good work the zoo is doing and the excitement for the vision. Next step. Now let's take a turn to discussing the financing portion that council has asked us to bring. I just want to share with you, this is a draft of our 5-year forecast, and I know you can't really see the details, but the importance is where those lines cross. Well, looking at the basic facts about the zoo budget, in short, it's tight. Nearly every dollar of ongoing revenue must be focused on caring for our animals, ensuring the zoo is safe and open for visitors, and keeping the lights and utilities running. That leaves very little for capital improvements. Next slide. Community support beyond these basic needs is needed if we are to continue to maintain and advance the highest standards for our animals, visitors, and sustainable operations. Fortunately, we've been able to count on this community support since 1888, well before the Oregon Zoo was even the Oregon Zoo or before Metro was even an idea. Today, a major part of the community support we receive is through the Oregon Zoo Foundation. OZF and its generous donors, members, and supporters fund mission-critical zoo priorities in education, conservation, and animal well-being every year. We are so grateful for the impact of their recent campaign, Heart of the Oregon Zoo, which met and exceeded its goal in 2021. That campaign raised $9.6 million for zoo programs and habitat enhancements. As wonderful and generous as those donations are, however, they're still just a fraction of our annual budget, let alone the cost of the broader improvements the zoo needs. And though they've made substantial improvements in certain habitats, like Rhino Ridge, continuing to advance on a broader scale requires more substantial, reliable community investment. Next year, the Oregon Zoo and Philadelphia Zoo will be the first in the nation to celebrate 50 years of Association of Zoo and Aquarium accreditation. Keeping up with those standards and indeed taking part in driving them forward means looking beyond operations and critical maintenance to continue to envision and execute the latest in animal care, habitat design, and more, and that means public investment. That's where, next slide please, that's where the people of the region have stood with us in our vision. In 2008, voters across the Portland metro region acted decisively on behalf of animals and conservation when they voted overwhelmingly to make investments in the Oregon Zoo with an emphasis on animal well-being, sustainability, and education. The bond was transformative. It provided the impetus for a dramatic overhaul of several of the zoo's most popular animal habitats, including Asian elephants, primates, and polar bears. It also helped ensure that we're providing the highest standard of care in a state-of-the-art veterinary medical center and allowed us to complete an extensive education center with a wide variety of up-close learning opportunities. Work on the 2008 bonds investment finished on time and on budget in 2021. That transformed 40% of the campus, an impact enjoyed by every visitor at the zoo today. Next slide. While that's wonderful, it's only half of the zoo. We knew that the 2008 zoo bond was just a first phase of a longer-term investment plan guided at that time by the 2011 Zoo Master Plan. As you know, that's what the New Oregon Zoo Campus Plan is all about, evolving from the 2011 Master Plan to make sure we're bringing the best in animal care, conservation education, accessibility and experiences, and sustainable operations forward for the decades to come. The campus plan is wide-reaching. It's a 20-year vision. It's not realistic to build it all at once. We need to be thoughtful about how much we can advance in our next big phase of investments. We're going to talk about what that looks like. Next slide. At Council's direction, we've been working to prioritize capital projects from the campus plan for potential investment in this new phase. We know we can't do everything, but how we've prioritized is looking at council and community values carried forward into what will really matter for the zoo and what we can be confident that we can actually deliver, building from the knowledge of our experienced staff in veterinary care, zookeeping and operations who work with the animals, facilities, and visitors day in and day out, and ensuring that we're prioritizing projects that we can deliver and that we can be confident will have a major impact. Next slide. So our prioritization criteria includes animal well-being, connecting our community and inspiring the guest experience, making sure that we are replacing our failing infrastructure. Some of our facilities are over 60 years old, having a high readiness and return on that capital investment and the project value, and aligning with our strategic priorities around conservation, financial sustainability, and the staff experience. So with that, next slide. The projects that we have prioritized in phase 2 of the investment would be Coastal Shores in the Central Hub, the Great Northwest, African Savanna, the Herpetarium in the South Hub, and the entry to the zoo. And all of these include animal, guest, and staff priorities and well-being. Next slide. The full campus plan development could be between 500 and 600 million. We're going to focus on phase 2 with an estimated cost estimate of 350 to 400 million, and estimating that will take between 10 and 15 years to do that construction. We are working on an update to this cost estimate as well as the specific timeline for construction, and we'll have that ready in January. Next slide. Now I turn it over to Brian Kennedy.
Thank you, Heidi. My name is Brian Kennedy. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at Metro. So as a reminder, last fiscal year, we refinanced a portion of the outstanding debt from the 2008 zoo bond, both to take advantage of savings in the marketplace, but also to create the opportunity to do a renewal bond in part. So there is we have the opportunity now to renew the zoo bond at up to the same rate of 9 cents per thousand of assessed value. That would mean no increase in tax rates that are currently paid. We estimate that renewal rate at that 9 cents can generate in that same dollar range of the phase 2 estimates, 350 million to 400 million. There's some uncertainty in the marketplace right now. We tend to use really conservative projections of interest rates. So I think that estimate is probably on the low end of what we could generate at current market rates, because we also have the opportunity to continue to leverage Metro's AAA bond rating, double AAA bond rating. So we will get the most competitive rates in the marketplace today if voters were to approve this. And for taxpayers, what that means for a home assessed at $275,000, which is kind of approximately the value of homes, assessed value of homes across the region, that equates to about $2.10 a month at that 9 cents per thousand rate. So we have taken the steps to be prepared to finance the next phase of the zoo improvements, and we're ready to support that if council decides to go that direction.
Great, so next slide. Bringing it all home, just a little timeline from here, our proposed next steps, and we're really looking for your guidance and feedback today. As Heidi and Brian mentioned, we have begun working on the framework, the financing framework, as well as the prioritization framework. If you're comfortable moving forward, we'll come back in early January with a more developed financing and prioritization framework, and then look to potential action towards the end of January for a potential referral to next May. We will also be following up with a public opinion research next month, just to get a little more clarity on where we think voters are. You may be aware, the Zoo Foundation did some polling last spring. We feel like we're in a very strong position. Public strongly supports the zoo itself. The fact that this is a renewal is always something that voters are more interested in looking at, and very strong support for the functions of the zoo. Also, the fantastic team, Heidi's team, the communications folks up at the zoo, and the team at the foundation have already begun really good outreach and education work, and we've got a plan for continuing to reach out to potential champions and friends around this. So following today's work session, if you so direct us, we'll be redoubling all those communications efforts. And then again, be in front of you in early January with more additional details on top of what Heidi and Brian have laid out today. Get your further direction towards action at the end of January. So that is the general time frame. And next slide, I think we're pleased with your discussion or feedback.
Great, thank you so much. Council, feedback.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's great. I think you're making great progress. It looks good. I have two questions, I guess. One is related to, on the conditional use plan, have there been any really substantive concerns identified by the city that could cause problems in this time scenario? I'm hoping that there aren't any. And the second question was, I noticed that the plan no longer included some conceptual, if we still have some potential for doing something with the former children's zoo, would that come out through this bond, or would that be somehow a separate project?
Great questions. The city has not yet reviewed the conditional use master plan, so they will get this information from us in December. So we don't know yet if there are any major issues, but we've had some pre-meetings with them, and we don't think there's anything that would be preventative from moving forward. That's the thing, though. We work closely with them over the next 6 months to make any modifications, which is why you approve the concepts of the campus plan and not yet the final version. Regarding the City of Portland property up at Portland Parks in Washington Park, we are working on an assessment of that property and an appraisal, and then we will have that this month, and then we'll be talking to the city about procurement of that property. That is not yet our property, so it is not in the conditional use master plan because of the timing of the potential purchase.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, excellent. Just, it's glamorous. It's wonderful to see. If I did have a question, it was going to be around the parking area and the adjacent site that we're looking at. Just general feedback with the 5 key areas of investment. I think they reflect the values of everything from local conservation to critical species and education and opportunity for our community to engage. I particularly appreciate the emphasis on our guest experience as well. And I know that the team has been working through visioning the gates and how people access and feel welcome to the zoo. I think we've had such a great level of engagement with you up to this point that right now in particular, I don't feel like I have any burning questions or red flags or anything to highlight. But I appreciate the constant update and for you coming to us to talk a little bit about what we foresee as a reasonable next step.
Thank you.
Councilor Nolan or Councilor Simpson? Okay, Well, I guess I will just close out by saying a big thank you, and thank you in particular for Brian for coming to lay the foundation of what a potential bond would look like. The opportunity to build off of the fact that we've gone out to voters who have said yes for the zoo 2 times in our history, I think is big, and the opportunity to meet this current moment where the zoo is literally saving species, that because of climate change and how we live, the species survival plans that the zoo is part of are extremely critical in this exact moment. And I like that we're gonna be investing in the Northwest. That's how you get into the zoo. It is the particularly unique story that we have to tell compared to any other zoo in this country. And then there's also our commitment to making the visitor experience accessible for everybody. And that's not just ADA, it's ADA plus. But it's also wayfinding and making sense of what is a very complex campus environment. So I do think that the work being done to enhance the visitor experience isn't fluff. It is really important. And then finally, we do have some animals that live with us that we have some uncertain futures for. And I appreciate that our planning is around area, and we're not making long-term commitments based off of one species or another, and are preparing to be opportunistic to take our part along with the rest of the AZA accredited institutions to be part of housing the animals that need it. So I think it's really good work all around. I'm glad that we've laid the foundation today for potential for the bond to support much of this project. And those numbers seem both reasonable and attainable to me. Councilor Rosenthal.
Yeah, just one question that occurred to me, and I didn't, because we didn't talk about it, one of our biggest successes, of course, has been the Condor facility. And would any part of the bond be used to do, because there's been some talk about some upgrades to the Condor facility or making it a little more resilient in terms of the fires and things like that. Is there any part of the bond that would be used to deal with, to make improvements in the Condor facility?
That's a great question. We haven't determined that yet. What we have talked about is we know the Condor facility, which is off-site in Clackamas County, and it's where we recover this endangered species. We have $2 million of federal funding that we're investing right now, and the strategy right now is to seek more federal and private funding for that facility. We think it's easy to fundraise for the recovery of that endangered species, so we would likely focus on private and federal funds to support the recovery of that species at an off-site and focus the bond dollars on the zoo campus.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I guess it's without a bullet point here today, but we need to underscore the role of private philanthropy that the Oregon Zoo Foundation and Oregon Zoo members bring to the table. And that's not unique to us, but it's critical. So we shouldn't have glossed over the fact that Zoo Foundation partnership is essential. And our community benefits a lot from membership, but the membership also supports the zoo. So yes, the average household might be paying $2.10 a month, but many average households with children are also zoo members, paying somewhere in the range of $100 a year, and then they get to go to the zoo whenever they feel like it. And that's just really important that we keep that opportunity open. So with that, I don't have any closing remarks other than a big thank you. And that chart helps us understand what's next, but I just want to be really clear. Brian, your presentation today has laid the foundation for us to talk very seriously about referring a bond. We are up against next year being our timeline in order for it to be a renewal, correct?
There is a little flexibility there in how we structured the debt service. We would need to issue ideally in calendar year 25 to maintain the levy rate.
Okay, thank you. And then do we expect this bond to be the same year in, year out, or do we lower the rate at the end of these bonds? Because we can go up to 9 cents a year. Have we historically used the 9 cents for all the years we're paying the bond?
In general, yes. We try to manage our, so we have, right now, several existing GO bond issues. We have the affordable housing bond. There is still remaining debt on the 2006 natural areas bond, the 2008 zoo bond, as well as the 2019 Parks and Nature bond. So we manage our overall tax rate to try to keep it as level as possible within the commitment made to voters. So they're often, and depending on the timing of the individual tranches, so if voters were to pass this, we would not issue 100% of that debt upfront, given the long investment timeframe for the zoo. So that would be chunked out in time. The fancy financial word is tranche. We'd issue in multiple tranches, or chunks if you prefer. So there's a little bit of fluctuation within the individual levy rates for the bonds, but we manage to that overall rate that we've committed to voters.
Great, thank you. We have been good stewards. Thank you.
Thank
With that, I guess just a big thank you, and we'll see
Yeah.
you again in January.
See you in a few weeks. Thank you
Yeah.
for your support.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is our Chief Operating Officer Communication. Our COO is out today, so we have our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Andrew Scott.
Good morning. Your Deputy Chief Operating Officer has no communications today.
Wonderful, thank you for being here.
What a meeting.
We're gonna move us along in our agenda. We've got the Counselor Communication, who has an update for council.
Let's see, what do we got?
Don't all raise your hands at once. Counselor Nolan?
Two things from CORE. One is the CORE met last week. It was last week, sorry. Calendars kind of
Thursday, last
slip
Thursday.
away. And thanked three veteran members for their service since they're concluding their time with CORE. But CORE is also actively recruiting and will be making decisions about recommending new appointments to that committee to keep the momentum going. The second thing on CORE is that although three of the members are no longer serving on CORE, one of them will be participating in the Urban Growth Management Stakeholders Roundtable as a liaison and voice from his 4 years of service on CORE to help inform that organization. And thanks to our flexible Deputy Chief Operating Officer for working that so that he could attend last Friday's meeting as a member. It's a good move.
Great. Excellent, and I am fairly certain some of the retiring members will be around in other capacities as well, so.
I think your crystal ball is very clear.
Yep. Well, thank them for that service and look forward to future service. Hopefully they get a moment break. Counselor Gonzalez.
All right, awesome. Just two things for me. On Friday, I was in Vancouver, Washington for a half-day workshop with the RTC. They're working on advancing their RTP, which will be adopted in April, and as regional partners with our neighbors on the north end of the river, continue to emphasize the importance of our bi-state partnership and focusing on obviously the bridge project that is linking us, especially at the moment. But in general, there are a lot of shared goals across climate, equity, safety as well. So it's nice to see some alignment up north. Lastly, I'll share over the last 3 years, I've participated with a statewide effort. I sit on this kind of steering committee formed in partnership with foundations in Oregon to create a Latino wealth building coalition. And I'm sharing this because we have really made an emphasis on this council to discuss wealth building and economic justice as a key priority. So this committee has been, like I said, meeting for 3 years, and we have done a whole bunch, published a report and things like that, but taking a formative step in creating the first Latino CDFI in Oregon. And that is launching in 2024. a pretty big effort, but in general, you know, I sit on there as a Metro councilor on that steering committee, and happy to share that it's kind of a big step, a big moment. I'm not sure if there will be necessarily an action that comes to us as a council, but in general, there's a lot of really exciting work happening across the state that is aligned with our work, and hope that I can provide more good news as it comes along.
Great, thank you. Counselor Rosenthal?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick update. The RDPO, the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization, continues to meet. They had a presentation last Friday from the City of Portland, how the City of Portland is developing a communications matrix. The RDPO is chaired by Mayor Ann from Vancouver, which is great. It's a regional effort. There is a gap, of course, between the long-range plans on getting together a regional sort of a consensus as to the kind of information and the kind of structures and who gets reported to who, and what would happen if something were to happen immediately. We're not, well, let's just hope nothing happens real soon, and so that we get, the RDPO can come up with a consistent plan for the entire region and tie everybody together before something serious happens. Keep our fingers crossed.
We've been crossing our fingers for like 20 years,
Yeah.
but thank
Right.
you.
Keep them crossed.
We're not ready for that emergency yet.
We're not
Hold
go-
off,
Just
Mother
hold off.
Nature.
We're working on it, but we still have work to do.
I'll call down to the core of the earth, put them on notice, we're not ready. Counselor Simpson, anything from you?
No updates. Just wishing everybody a good holiday break or whatever you want to do on this time. So nothing new on my end.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, thank you. Well, with that, I have one update. Many of us, I think everybody here, received the letter from Welcome Home encouraging us to consider future for our affordable housing development program, since we are nearing the end of the pipeline with our dollars and commitments to very affordable housing in this region. Met with Welcome Home and a few other stakeholders from that world, as well as business community yesterday, in order to begin a process of thinking through launching a stakeholder table. So very premature, basically one step beyond a whiteboard exercise, but I expect things to start moving pretty quickly, and I'll be in touch as we hear more over the next week or two. So thank you all. With that, I am going to adjourn us, and our next meeting is Tuesday, November 28th, 10:30 a.m. Between now and then, have a great time enjoying some rest and your family. Thanks.